What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Jericho Report Weekly News Briefing. It is Sunday, the 17th of September, 2023. What a week it has been. If you've been paying attention to the headlines, wow, another off-the-chain news week. As always, the first link below will take you over to the Patreon post. That's where you can catch up on all this stuff in case you don't know what's going on in the world. Let's kick it off in India. They're racing to contain a deadly virus, hundreds tested. Now, what's scary about this virus is it has a fatality rate as high as 75%. Is this going to be the new thing? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Back in the United States, updated COVID vaccines, FDA authorizes emergency approval and authorization. Emergency approval and authorization. This come out September 11th of all days, 2023 from Fox News. FDA recommends new shot for anyone 6 months and older, depending on previous vaccines. So emergency approval for what emergency? Put a link to that. It's back. We got healthcare system imposes COVID vaccine. Healthcare workers, you either get the vaccine or you're terminated. We're seeing this shit coming back now, as we said we would. Dr. Fauci maintains this.
Of course, with the mRNA, there's a very, very, very low risk, particularly in young men, of getting a myocarditis. But
Very, 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 very low risk. That's what he's saying. So, safe and effective. Sacramento City college football player died after conditioning in practice. Wasn't too safe for him. What caused his death? I don't know. Speculation. Former NBA player dead at 42 after hot yoga. Completely baffling. By the way, the died suddenly GLP thread, I'll put a link to it, is now 86 pages long. This started 8/29/2022. All of the died suddenly threads here in one thread on GLP. If anybody's interested to go through this very, 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 very low rate of whatever it is. Other news going on. Hunter Biden indicted by special counsel on felony gun charges. This will go absolutely nowhere. This is just for show. I don't think they're already talking about something about him purchasing a gun when he was addicted to drugs. This is just noise. Put a link to it. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announces impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Again, good luck. Biden fires back, addresses impeachment claims, says GOP is coming after him over connections to Hunter's shady deals because they want to shut down the government. By the way, another government shutdown looming, I think, at the end of the month, right? Something like that. Coming up in financial news. Other news, this was weird. CNN just spent an entire segment documenting how Joe Biden is a pathological liar. Play a little bit of this.
This president has a pattern at this point of either inventing or embellishing stories about his own past, his biography. He did it 3 times in one speech last month alone. He claimed he had witnessed a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh when he actually showed up about 6 hours later. He claimed that his grandfather had died just days before he was born himself at the same hospital. In fact, his grandpa died more than a year before in a different state, not the same hospital. And he also repeated a favorite false story that I and others have debunked over and over again about a supposed conversation with an Amtrak train conductor he was friends with.
Just weird coming from CNN. I think he's just Sleepy Joe, though. He's just following his orders. Here we go. Here's some with Joe Biden this week.
Let's see. I'm just following my orders here.
I must follow my orders here.
Have a game plan. He may have a game plan. He just hasn't shared it with me. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Such a pillowcase. Shout out to Heathers. Over to financial news. How major U.S. stock indexes fared on the Friday, 9/15. What happened in the markets this week? Looking on Friday, the Dow Jones fell 288 points. For the week, though, the Dow was only up 41.65. Pretty flat week for the Dow. Put a link to the market recap data. U.S. inflation set for a big increase. CPI to show. Here's why. September 12, 2023. How's your pocketbook? UAW, big news this week, launches unprecedented strike against all 3 automakers. They want more monies. They had the CEOs up here talking about if we gave them more monies, it would break the companies and all this, yada, yada. On an unrelated story, but in the same ballpark, major dealership files for bankruptcy but abruptly closes all location, laying off hundreds of workers. I think they're based down in Florida. I'll put a link to that. Biden sneaks a fast one into the government funding bill, tries to cut ICE while Republicans stay silent. Again, I think the government's going to run out of money, at the end of this month, something like that. They'll figure it out at the last hour, how others do. Look at this. Let's have some Bidenomics.
We not only recovered all the jobs we lost during the pandemic, we've added millions more. We've seen record lows in unemployment, particularly, and I've focused on this my whole career.
Listen to this.
For African Americans and Hispanic workers and veterans. The workers without high school diplomas, the lowest unemployment rate in 70 years.
So African Americans and Hispanic and veterans have no high school diplomas? Is that what we're taking away from this? I'll put a link to that. G20 announces plan to impose digital currencies and IDs worldwide. Of course they do. September 14. From Zero Hedge, New World Order coming at you. Safe and faster, more convenient. Bank announces plan to phase out cash by the end of 2024. And I believe this is out of Australia, but this is going on all over the world. Put a link to it. Klaus Schwab says world leaders should grant the World Economic Forum full governmental control over nations. Of course he does. That from the People's Voice. Homeland Security, if you disagree with any of this, awards $20 million to police and mental health networks, universities, churches, and school districts to help identify Americans as potential extremists. You don't go along with the New World Order, you know you're an extremist. They're coming after you. Put a link to that. A couple more here. Miscellaneous news. Most Californians oppose reparations for slavery. Where does the movement go from here? And be advised, if you want some free monies, you can get a free $5 coupon after you get your vaccination at the local CVS. We're over to New World Order and Police State News. For us, time to ask you, please share this report. There's a lot of important stuff coming up. Let's see. Today's Blacklisted American reports innocent man sentenced to 1 year in prison for appearing as George Washington in the Capitol on January 6th. George Washington gets 1 year in prison. I wonder what he would think about that. Tyranny takes hold in America. Reporter Owen, 60 days in prison for speech crimes. 60 days because he committed speech crimes. Man, I'll put a link to this, and I don't want you to fight back against any of this. The governor of New Mexico, here's a little bit what she thinks about the Second Amendment.
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute.
Your constitutional rights are not absolute. New Mexico's AG tells her to pound sand over gunman, right? It's nice to see some pushback. Shout out to the sheriffs. Outrage intensifies over New Mexico's governor's temporary ban. Sheriff says he won't enforce it. Listen to a little bit of this, man.
The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order.
Good.
While I understand the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do.
The sheriffs across this country, you have more power than you know. You stand up and put your foot down. No one can say shit about it. Ammunition manufacturer fires back at the governor. Offers free deliveries to all in New Mexico with a special promo code. Yes, I love it. Other news going on. Croatian EU parliamentarian publicly declares World Health Organization a terrorist organization. Let me just play a little bit of this for you. Listen to this.
The World Health Organization wants all countries to sign an agreement on handing over the authority to declare a pandemic, procure vaccine and drugs. It will be healthier and safer for humanity to sign agreement with the Colombian drug.
It goes on for a while, and I'm not giving anyone medical advice. I'm just sharing an article here. This woman here, now granted this was back from 2021, speaking of terrorists, listen to what she has to say.
I truly hope that in Alberta, if someone comes into the ICU and they are unvaccinated for any reason other than a medical
She's
exemption,
supposedly a doctor, although I can't verify
whatever
that.
Reasons they've been given. And if there's a 90-year-old who comes in who's vaccinated, and a 20-year-old that comes in that's unvaccinated for no reason other than their arrogance and ignorance, I truly hope that the bag goes to the 90-year-old.
I wonder if she feels the same way now that we have more data. Other news going on the agenda front, listen to this man read a book from a children's library at a school.
The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it.
This is what they're teaching kids.
I put some lube on and got him on his knees. And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated.
It goes on for a while. It's sickening. Yet, you better not make a finger gun in school. Woke Alabama school suspends 6-year-old for finger guns during cops and robbers game. Oh no! Couple at the bottom in immigration news. Meanwhile, going on in Italy, we got this. Not a single woman or child to be had. Just wanted to point that out. And over in Sweden, is turning into a gangland paradise after 6 people shot dead in just 8 days. Over to World War III news, and sorry if I get a little stuck or tongue-tied sometimes. I need to, change my thermal paste. It boils off every now and then. We got Russian submarine landing ship struck in attack. We got this from the war zone. I got a second link on that from Zero Hedge. Russian Navy port fire massive Ukraine missiles. They took down a submarine. They took down a ship. They got some video there of the attack. Meanwhile, Russia has deployed 46 launchers along the border. Big launchers, put a link to that. Ukraine claims to recapture Black Sea oil platforms seized during Crimea's annexation. That from the AP. Putin warns Britain of serious consequences, says doesn't understand the risk of accusing UK trying to disrupt Russian nuclear power plants. Be advised, Bulgaria and NATO discuss response to Russia's blockade in the Black Sea. Apparently there's a blockade going on. FBI director, he's wary, issues warning about number of Russian spies in the U.S. Well, with the southern border open, who knows what's in the U.S. at this point? Put a link to that. Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin meet for talks in Russia. That is quite a sight. I saw that going on this week. Like, wow. Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky to visit Biden as Congress debates $24 billion. Another $24 billion in aid. That from The Guardian. Justin Trudeau says Canada will continue to support Ukraine, whatever it takes, for as long as it takes. Be advised. Syria demands U.S. pay for stolen oil. A couple miscellaneous here. And Biden administration strikes deal with Iran to swap prisoners and release $6 billion in frozen funds. Over to Earth changes in 2012 news. Not get the earthquake set up for 6 points and above the past week. We had a 6.1 on the 13th, a 6.3 on the 12th, and a 6.0 on the 11th. Not too bad for quakes this week. I'll put a link to the earthquake data if you want to check it out. A lot of fives going on. We got the Hurricane Lee went up the east coast, began making landfall in the northeast United States. I think the last update I saw, it was over New Brunswick or somewhere up there, Nova Scotia. So it missed the majority of the United States, so that's good. It stayed off land, but now it's hitting up there. Be advised, nor'easter going on maybe. More than 5,000 presumed dead in Libya after catastrophic flooding breaks dams. Man, unfortunately the number's a lot higher. I got an updated article here that says flooding death toll soars to 11,300. Libya's coastal city, these people are just devastated by floods and mudslides and wow. Over in Nigeria, the power is being restored after nationwide grid collapse, be advised. And speaking of that, the Tesla Semi proves itself fascinating. A new independent test. Apparently the Tesla truck is going forward, maybe. I don't know how we're going to power that with the grids already maxed. We got an update on Hawaii. Listen to what the governor has to say here.
A broad international audience, but I will make this case. Smart
he said it.
Legislatures,
smart cities.
Governments.
He's about to say it. Did you catch that? Smart cities.
Fire mitigation.
Yeah, but we're crazy conspiracy people. Back on the mainland, we got a rail car. Toxic chemicals explodes in Nebraska. Evacuation order has been lifted. We got another train incident going on here. Doesn't look nearly as bad as what happened in Ohio, but I'll put a link to that. Northern Lights, England skies glow in aurora spectacle. Be advised, back in the United States, we got double rainbow appears over NYC on 9/11. Most intense thing I've ever seen. I don't know. Put a link to that. A couple at the bottom. Web finds molecule only made by living things in another world. What? Put a link to that. And we got alien corpses being displayed at Mexico's Congress, believed to be 1,000 years old. What is up with that? Over to strange, bizarre news, be advised. Some graphic content coming up, just be advised. I'll start off with escaped prisoner. He has been captured after 14-day manhunt. This was the man that moonwalked up the wall. He said he had planned to carjack someone and drive a car to Mexico, but they got him. Speaking of stolen cars, tourist layover in San Francisco to Bali had all of her belongings stolen. She had a video here about this. It was a rental car. They broke into it while she was in the store, and
tiny purse with
she's just left with all her stuff. We got more madness over in Philadelphia. We got just what's going on here. Watch this. This is very graphic. Be advised. Just some craziness on the streets of the United States. Just someone walks up and shoots someone right in the head. Over in the Netherlands, I believe this might be Amsterdam. We got more craziness on trains. Special needs man gets attacked. It's violent. I don't want to really play it. Now, we got this going on, why the world has such problems. You tell me.
Yes, y'all fighting, just like y'all were doing. Fucking fight, bro. Kick his ass, fight.
This is what you're teaching little kids. I don't think it's about football. I think it's about violence myself, but maybe I'm just judgmental. Grow up and have something like this happen. But the lady ain't having it. Gotta give her a shout out. Watch what happens.
I mean, you a fuck ass nigga. You a fuck ass nigga.
No, she gets it. There she goes.
Oh yeah, bitch.
Oh yeah,
bitch. Get there. Get there. I like this. Get there.
Craziness on camera. Other news, crowds block busy road after social media video appears to show shop owner putting hands. I think this is over in the EU somewhere. there's a photo here, shows the shop owner putting his hands around a woman's throat. Turns out she was trying to steal a bunch of shit from his store. What do you expect him to do? People are going to stand up to this bullshit. I got a couple crazy stories out of my area. Man charged after attempting to steal toy train from a collector's club. And I got another one out of my area here in St. Louis. Man accused of stealing frozen chicken from Popeyes. Love that chicken from Popeyes. I don't know. Ron Perlman literally loses his shit. Wheeled off a Delta flight. It's a disgusting story. I just want to throw it in there. 5G. Maybe he got hit by the G. Science paper reveals cell phone signals can activate release of biological payloads, graphite oxide injection into the body. I don't know. That's from Natural News. And I got one at the bottom. The mayor of Burbank apparently gets spanking from a drag queen in front of children at a campaign event. Does it surprise anyone? That's all the news I got. For other news, check my favorites. Protest takeover AOC news conference. That was great. Nancy Pelosi goes on to talk about how Kamala Harris doesn't do much. Kim Jong-un meets with Vladimir. This video is coming up in my shout-outs. We've got an update out of Hawaii. Body cam man tries to stab officer. Corners 3 officers. He gets killed. And you want to see a good shooting? There you go. He comes at the cops with knives and he gets dealt with. Anyway, I'll put a link to my favorites. Thank you to everybody just continuing to put out videos, keeping everybody informed. You guys are doing awesome. I got one shout-out this week. Shout-out to Chloe Cole. You know, I saw this video of her telling her story back in July, and just it hit me in the heart, man. And the kids today, we didn't have to deal with this sort of shit when we were kids. I don't know where this came from, what sickness brought this on, but what's happened. She tells her story about what happened. I'm just going to play a little bit of this.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring this scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria.
Where did this come from? Gender dysphoria? When did this shit start? Does it piss you off? Piss me off. Made me cry. Should make you cry. Should piss you off.
Well into an early
What is this shit?
And I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention. And when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit.
She goes on to talk about how they cut her breast off even though she didn't have cancer, and they did all this stuff, and only to find out years later that this was all a mistake. I'll put a link to her Wikipedia page, much more information over there if you want to. I'm sorry, I don't know, it's not really what I would do at the end of my report, but it pissed me off, and it made me cry. It's so ridiculous. This should not be happening. That's all I got for this week, guys. If you like the report, please give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you think it sucked, it's the worst you've ever seen, please rate it, though. You can also follow me on all my links. They're always at the bottom. You can support me on Patreon or directly DonorBox. A lot goes into these reports. A lot of emotion goes into these reports sometimes. I don't know where we are as humanity, man. But tell me your thoughts on this week's, we got this new virus with a 75% fatality rate. Is it going to circle the globe? I don't know. Is that going to be the new thing? The COVID? I don't know if people are going to fall for it again. You see them pushing it here and there in the media, and they're just trying to push it on people and see what happens. They're doing these little things. Let's see if we can make them wear the mask again. Let's see if we can force them to get this. CVS giving out $5 coupons. Hey. Is your life worth $5? That's all I got. You guys take care. Stay safe. Remain vigilant. Be ready for anything at any time. Have a good rest of the weekend. Have a good week. I love you very much. Stay safe. I will see you on the next one.